Welcome back to Hot Topics TV, y'all. If you've never been here before, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Click the bell next to the subscribe button so you are notified every time a new video goes up on Hot Topics TV. This young man, Ladarius Clardy, is worth mentioning. Ladarius Clardy is one of those guys who excelled in sports. Football was his thing. He had dreams, like so many young men, of making it big. His dreams were coming to fruition pretty quickly. He was on his way. But that realization of that dream was cut short in a violent manner. And right now, there's still an open investigation going on in the death of Ladarius Clardy. Let's get into the story so you have a full understanding. And before we do that, I'll just say my condolences goes out to his family, and I truly wish and hope and pray that justice be served. Shout out to MSN.com. So the drive from Kennesaw State's campus, where he played football, northwest of Atlanta, to Pensacola, Florida, takes about 6 hours. Ladarius Clardy pushed his black 2016 Honda Accord down Interstate 85 and out of Georgia on June 30th, 2021. Then he cut a path across Alabama until he hit the rural country highways that took him through the northernmost parts of Florida, then finally home. Clardy, who had just finished his freshman year at Kennesaw State, was looking forward to a brief break for the 4th of July weekend before getting back to the grind of preparing for the upcoming college football season. Young man was on his grind. He had just finished his freshman year, and he was a promising young quarterback for the Owls. Now, once he got to Pensacola, he made a beeline. He went to go pick up his childhood friend, Eric Young, who had caught passes from him at Pine Forest High just a few years earlier. Clardy and Young spent the rest of the night making several house calls to see friends, and then they headed to a house where a dice game was in full swing, and they stayed there until shortly after midnight. You know how it goes. You, the breakaway star, you're no longer in your hometown. Some college recruited you. You're on some D1 stuff. Your dreams are coming through. So you got to separate and you go off to college. But every holiday, every chance you get, it's still a couple of hours drive away from home. So you jump on the road and you drive home. And the first thing you want to do as a young person is go see your friends, right? Your real friends, your friends you grew up with, your friends who knew you before you started becoming this person who everybody is so interested in because you play football so good. You want to go back to your day ones. And that's all he did. He wanted to come home for the 4th of July weekend holiday, go catch up with some of his day ones, and chill for a little bit before he gets back to school and start training for the upcoming season. July 1st, 2021. As Clardy and Young, his childhood friend, as they approached the intersection of Fairfield Drive and Hollywood Avenue, the two cars that had been following them since they left the dice game shortly after midnight, those two cars pulled up on both sides of their car and opened fire, raining bullets on the two teenagers. Clardy was the one that was driving. Clardy slammed on the gas to get away from them as shots continued to pepper the car, which sailed across an embankment and crashed into a small ravine. There was a man that was standing nearby. The man was on his bicycle, and he watched as Clardy's car lost control and crashed. The man then flagged down a passing EMS vehicle, asked for help, pointed them in the direction of the car that had just crashed, riddled with bullets, and the EMS team phoned the Escambia County Sheriff's Office. Now, at the scene, the EMS directed the sheriff's deputies to the bullet-riddled Honda Accord. Clardy was already dead from multiple gunshot wounds. Young, his friend who he had went to go pick up, was also shot several times, but he managed to live. He was immediately transported to Baptist Hospital. Sheriff deputies determined quickly that more than 50 rounds had been pumped into Clardy's car, with the majority of the shots landing on the driver's side. Like a hit, like somebody wanted him dead and they made sure that he was dead. How else you explain 50 shots, over 50 shots, majority of which are pumped into the driver's side? And mind you, this is the car that had been following them since they left the dice game. They also determined that the shots came from 3 different guns, all 9mm guns. Now, around 3 a.m., sheriff deputies went to the home of Clardy's mother, Tracy Marshall, to tell her what had happened to her son. She said that what I encountered when I opened my door was my worst nightmare. She didn't expect all this. Her son was home. He was just home to celebrate a little bit, go back to college. She was proud of him. She didn't see him as somebody who would get into anything because that's not his track record. He's always been a focused kid. The news of Clardy's death hit Pensacola the next morning like a thunderbolt. We're talking about Florida, Pensacola. Pensacola News Journal reporter Eric Wallace, he spoke with Clardy's friends and family the next day. He called it a cascade of grief within the community. With the suspects still on the loose at that time, authorities took pains to not identify Young, who was still in critical condition, referring to him only as a 19-year-old passenger. They didn't know who did it, and they didn't know if they were out there. They didn't want to give anybody any ideas that, you could come back and get him because he's not finished. But the other one did die. So the story of the star quarterback with movie star good looks, who had been murdered in his hometown, started to spread like wildfire. Now, some people say you don't get blessed with everything, but he was considered one of those people that was blessed with everything. I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What's beautiful to me might be ugly to you, but for him, it was widely known by a lot of people, described him as a very handsome guy with the movie star looks. There were a lot of girls that were very interested in him. He had no shortage of girls, good and bad, right? So oftentimes these things could also lead to jealousy. You're that star athlete that made it out the hood. You have good looks. All the girls want you or look at you like you're so good looking. It could foster jealousy among some people who are not making it out. And to that end, I can't even think of what else he might have been involved in. I'm not insinuating or saying that he was involved in anything. I'm just saying there's nothing out there that says he was involved in anything. So the news spread like wildfire. Whole Pensacola went into grief. And the story of the quarterback with movie star looks who had been murdered in his hometown was now front page news. People magazine, the New York Post, E! News all ran this story. In Pensacola, the news overwhelmed the community. At the same time, the ESCO team was trying to get a grasp on the investigation. ESCO's Sheriff Chip Simmons, he spoke at a press conference later that day, and he implored the community to come forward and help. If you know something, say something. He said that this is not just a statistic. This is a son. This is a friend. This is a teammate. And enough is enough. We cannot sit here and just keep saying, oh, just another act of senseless violence. So we need your help. We want to know what you know. Well, shortly after, some people were brought in to custody. And on the legal side of things, this is how it's going so far. So, headline says in Pensacola's News Journal that the charges have been dropped against 3 defendants in the fatal shooting of Ladarius Clardy. Charges have been dropped. That must be so disheartening for his family because, they were kind of like on their way to getting some kind of closure, some kind of understanding as to what took place. Nothing they say or do can bring him back, but some closure is needed. You want to know that the person that took your promising young loved one away from you is at least being punished for what they did by law, right? So they thought having 5 people in custody that they were on their way. Well, fast forward to today, news headline says charges have been dropped against 3 of those persons so far. 2 remain in custody. Now, the story goes like this. Directly from Pensacola News Journal, it says that the office of the state attorney has announced that it will dismiss the criminal charges against 3 of the 5 men that were arrested in connection with the shooting death of former Pine Forest High School football star Ladarius L.D. Clardy. In the news release Thursday, the state attorney's office said that it had reviewed all available evidence and testimony in Clardy's July 2021 death. They made a decision not to prosecute Kobe LaShawn Jenkins Jr., Timothy Janile Knight, or Terrell Taquez Parker. The lawful arrests were made based on probable cause after a comprehensive investigation by the Escambia County Sheriff's Office. The legal standard for the office of the state attorney to prosecute a crime requires a greater standard of proof beyond and to the exclusion of reasonable doubt. Currently, the evidence does not meet that standard. Now, there are a lot of people who are saying they have the 5 right people, and these 5 right people need to be prosecuted to the fullest of law. You know how the law goes. They're saying we don't have enough evidence, so we're going to have to let 3 go out of the 5 that we had before. He had it all. Shock, grief rocked Pennsylvania community of Pine Forest star's death was something that they took really, really hard. The release noted that because this is an ongoing investigation and criminal case, these cases are pending against the remaining 2 defendants. The remaining 2 defendants are actually brothers. DeQuavion Kimos Snowden and Amos DeHontiquan Snowden. The state's attorney's office cannot disclose any further information to the public at this time because this is still ongoing investigation. It's sad, man. He was 19 years old. He was not his 19-year-old homie that was in the car. He survived. I believe that Clardy was 18 years old, realizing his dreams. Just came home for the 4th of July weekend, and within that same 24-hour period of just arriving home, within hours of just arriving home, he was showered with bullets and dead on the side of the road. Y'all leave your comments and tell me what you think about this one. This looks pretty strange to me, and I'm thinking all kinds of things. What do you think? I'll catch y'all on the next video. And like I said, my condolences goes out to his family, and I pray that justice is served. I'm out. Peace.